Today we will continue with the Revati Nakshatra. It's one of my favorite nakshatras. I mean, they're all very special, but I also had many opportunities to observe this nakshatra in particular back in the day. Now, first of all, as you know, in Vedic astrology, nakshatras are referred to as lunar mansions. Let's continue with our slides. Its ruler is Mercury. It covers 16 degrees 40 minutes to 30 degrees. They come from the Zeta Piscium civilizations in the sign of Pisces. Their energies reach our world in that way. Again, as you can see, its planet is Mercury. Here, the sources are in Turkish, but I will translate them into a foreign language. Of course, for YouTube, you will hear it exactly as it is. For my clients abroad, but as I said, for my followers abroad, I translate into other languages, but my sources are in Turkish. Now, as you know, in this nakshatra, it means to shine, to be possessed, to gain wealth and treasure. There's a throne here because the meaning of this throne is as follows. In this nakshatra that covers Pisces, friends, there is a luck that has been earned. A beauty, it could be physical beauty, divine intelligence, engineering sciences. For example, there are people who think very differently. Normally, in the West, Mercury in Pisces is considered to be in detriment because you see, you can't really hold on to a fish. It's an energy, or it's an animal that can't take root swimming in water. Actually, in Vedic science, it is described like this as well. Mercury, again, in terms of retaining and processing mercurial knowledge. It is described as a nakshatra that, like water or the ocean, can retain a vast amount of information in memory, process it, has a very unique imagination, and at the same time can be disciplined. When we look at it, friends, its symbols can mean a drum and a female elephant. Here, we can think of the drum like this. For example, it can mean giving very positive good news, delivering a message. For instance, we can put it this way. I apologize if there was a technical issue. Let's continue like this. Since there is both a fish and a drum, for example, the fish also represents deep spirituality. Besides being a symbol, Pisces is the 12th sign of the zodiac. In other words, it now encompasses everything, having attained all knowledge. The last nakshatra, Revati, is symbolized by the drum, because in fact, good news is being announced here. So you can think of it as celebrating something, delivering news, like a messenger, a herald, a communicator, or even a media person. They tend to be good at these things. In fact, this is considered a favorable nakshatra and also symbolizes enlightenment. As I mentioned, it has a divine temperament and is very much associated with protecting, guarding, and nurturing, especially as a guardian of paths, especially in terms of protecting animals. For example, there are many veterinarians and zookeepers, so these people tend to have a good relationship with animals, especially those who have personal planets in this nakshatra. Its symbol is also a female elephant, and these people tend to be striking or impressive. As I said, they can think differently, especially in terms of processing information. I also see that they are very good in fields like engineering, aviation, and space technologies. Apart from that, as I mentioned, they tend to have dominance over domestic animals. They get along well with animals. This also reflects a situation related to past karmas. They can play the role of a mother, the cosmic mother. They may want to be everyone's mother. They may become excessively protective of nature, animals, and those in need. Here, of course, it's important not to lose oneself and to maintain our own boundaries. Apart from that, in general, they really like curly hair, friends. Revati men are very attracted to curly haired and natural people. They love natural skin, beauty without too much makeup, or pure beauty. For example, I know that Revati men, especially those with Venus in Revati, really appreciate natural beauty. They always avoid anything too artificial, and because they have a very aesthetic eye, they are drawn to things that are both natural and refined. They can immediately distinguish these things, and this applies to other things as well. Generally, the women are very attractive. Even if they are not well groomed or flashy, they always have a clean, pure aura in any environment. These people are usually noticed. In other words, I can say they have an aura that stands out in a crowd. She is a housewife. They make excellent housewives. Their hands are very skilled. They are very industrious. Decoration, design, nurturing, and growing plants. As I said, in general, their relationships with nature and animals are very good. This is because it is a karmic trait carried over from a past life. Let's not call it karma, but rather a memory record from a past life. Roads, oceans, seas, overseas, logistics units, ships, captains, marina workers, basically in any profession involving the sea or water elements, they are generally successful, or at some point in their lives, they are drawn to these fields. Water sports are very beneficial for these people. They are very knowledgeable and intelligent, and they also make excellent consultants. For example, many of them become good psychologists. Now we will move on to the padas of Revati Nakshatra. As you know, each nakshatra is divided into 4 parts or 4 padas. This means that each pada has its own unique quality. Now, the first pada falls under Sagittarius Navamsa. In other words, Sagittarius traits are very dominant and the influence of Jupiter is very strong. So, if the nakshatra is in Revati and in the first pada, you will have a Pisces with Sagittarius like qualities. Right in front of you, this means someone who tends to think more philosophically. Sometimes they can be stubborn, and sometimes they may believe in their own stubbornness in a very dogmatic way. They can be extremely idealistic. They trust other people a lot, and sometimes they may want to escape from reality and seek isolation. But generally, this nakshatra does well in fields like healing practices, astrology, psychology, occultism, or academia. They truly have a strong sense of spirituality. And especially, we see communication and careers involving foreign cultures. In Pada 1, when we come to Pada 2, we again see Capricorn. Because in the nakshatra, it falls into the Capricorn Navamsa. Here, when its compassionate and spiritual nature combines with Saturn's heavier and more disciplined nature, here, in fact, they are hardworking. So, Revati 2S here are hardworking leaders and patient. Their sense of responsibility starts from a very young age. They know very well that success comes over time. They manage their time well. Pada 2 seconds, for example, compared to Pada 1, their energy is colder, but maybe they seem more selfish. But deep down, they are actually very goal oriented people. They are consistent people. Finance planning, long term projects, construction. Again, here too, they may have a tendency towards fields like psychological counseling, education, or astrology to these subjects. This is also the case in Pada 2, friends. These people need to have a lot of self confidence so that they can present themselves well to others. Here, of course, the inner authority can sometimes be weaker. Because of Capricorn, they may appear to be only concerned with the financial and material world, but of course, that's not really the case. This is just to ensure inner security. That's where it comes from. In other words, responsibilities taken on at a very young age or their lifestyle always make them feel like they need to be financially secure. It creates that feeling because maybe they experience not being able to trust others when they are young. This can really cause them to seem like workaholics throughout their lives. Sometimes they can suppress their emotions. They can take on too much work. They should pay a little attention to their superior subordinate relationships. In Theta 2, sometimes issues arise for them about taking directives from people who are less educated or older than themselves. After paying attention to these things, they can establish quite long lasting and beautiful relationships. Now we've moved on to Pada 3. Here the Aquarius Namamsha is present. Of course, here we see the effect of Aquarius's airy and volatile element. Forward thinking, visionary, again with a free spirit. In other words, all the characteristics of Aquarius, you can attribute them all here. Now, this Aquarius Nakshatra, the Aquarius part of Revati, is much more distant. Friends, you won't see them together with people who don't match their own vibration very often. Now, Aquarius, yes, we say social friendly, group oriented, but in Revati Pada 3, Aquarius is very, how can I put it, very much thinks outside the box, thinks outside of traditions, and sometimes because of this, is not easily understood by those around them. So, as I said, only people who are on the same frequency can really understand them. And that's already very few people. They have a very VIP circle. So, in reality, they're not as social and humanistic as they appear to be. I mean, in fact, they have a selective nature when it comes to people. That's a trait of these Pada 3s. Again, they place great importance on education and intellectualism. Sometimes, from time to time, they may want to be alone, but my advice to those with this pada is to definitely work in independent jobs. Friends, corporate jobs are not for you. Now we've moved on to Pisces. We call this a double conjunction. In other words, there's a double Pisces effect. Here, too, we have an amazing spiritual advisor. Strong intuition, dreams that come true. This is a nakshatra where these qualities are present. They usually idealize a lot. Life. They're very comfortable in this pada. They can truly receive many of life's blessings one after another after the age of 33. They are very empathetic and full of love. They are able to reflect their pure and strong energies very well here. Padas. In this pada, there is the luck of double Pisces. They seek other deep spiritual connections. My only advice here is to pay a bit more attention to setting boundaries. Instead of taking on too much responsibility, be careful to set boundaries a bit more. Please. Thank you for listening to me, friends. Goodbye. Don't forget to leave a comment.